Oh boy, what do we do? What do we do? Usman Masvidal over, right? Do you feel this lull? Do you feel this letdown? I mean, you get drunk on excitement. You get high for these fights. It's all over. What do? Okay. Let's figure out what we learned here. Okay. And what we did learn here was Masvidal's interpretation of the lack of training for the first fight was not overly relevant. I also thought and talked to you guys about the idea that he was a lot more prepared than even he thinks he was, evident of the fact that he could make weight. Fight was in 6 days, means the weigh-in's in 5. Oh, by the way, it took a full day to get to where he was going. Now you're down to 96 hours. He still made the weight, so he's in a little bit better shape than maybe he let on, but he thought, I've got a whole nother gear in me. Okay, good enough. Good enough for Usman, good enough for all of us. Let's rewind it. You get that training camp in and let's see what happens. Now, I can't overly judge or question the preparation as I'm juxtaposing fight one to tonight's fight. I can't overly do that because the punch that he got caught with would have put down a small horse. It was kind of like the night that Masvidal hit that knee on Askren. You can talk trash on Askren if you want, but none of you could have taken the shot. You could be 500 pounds. You can't take that shot. That wasn't a shot that a human being can take. Not just a 170, but you just can't take that shot. And that's what he got caught with tonight. So I don't know that that was a sign of the preparation. In fact, I saw some very good moments, particularly when he was taken down and scrambled right back up to his feet and turned and faced him and really brought the action. One mistake that guys make, they have made it from the beginning of time. If they are the superior striker or they deem themselves to be, they will break the basics. If your chin is not down and your hands are not up, you are eligible to be knocked out. Conor McGregor, who had just gone 30 minutes with Floyd Mayweather, went head over tea kettle when Khabib connected with him. And it wasn't because Khabib was as good or a better boxer. It's because Conor's hands were down. Everybody that tries to fight cute, okay, and George isn't overly guilty of this. He was only slightly guilty. He was not like a Floyd Mayweather or Roy Jones, back when he had his bad moments. He wasn't like Chuck Liddell, where he just could no longer defend himself, or even what happened with Anderson Silva. But they all do end the same. If you're out there and you're trying to fight cute and you're not following the basics of hands up and chin down, your story will end the same, and it will end a knockout. Not maybe. 100% guarantee. There is a question as to when. But I say that because George is a better stand-up fighter than Usman, in my opinion. In my opinion. Usman has what's known as a threat. The takedown is not as big of a deal as the threat of the takedown. And Usman got the takedown 2-3 minutes before this, which meant, of course, the threat exists. Masvidal can't deny that. So when Usman changes elevation, Masvidal's got to drop his hands, which is where this came from. I'm only bringing that to you because the great fighters, and Usman's a great fighter, will mix it up. And they will keep you guessing, and you will not know what's coming. But we have to remember the lessons of the guys who came before us. There is at no point in this sport with 4-ounce gloves on that you can take for granted because you're better at something that you can't be knocked out at it. One doesn't have anything to do with the other. Not with the 4-ounce gloves on. You can be much better at striking than your opponent, and your opponent can knock you out. All he has to do is hit you. It's one of those things. So you've got to be careful. And I don't want to be hard on Usman. This is just what happened. There's not a great technical breakdown that we can go to. We don't need to turn to Usman. I apologize, Masvidal, and say, hey, George, what happened? Boy, was training not really on point? Were you sick a little bit? Was your coaches not in the room? One has nothing to do with anything. He got hit with a punch that a human being can't take. Same as when he gave the shot to Askren. There's nothing for us to break down here. There was nothing done wrong. A shot happened that a person just can't take. It didn't have anything to do with training or preparation or weight cutting. It had to do with your standing right here with your hand down And you got Kamaru Usman throwing a right-hand heater at your face that found it. So what do we do now? And what do we do now? I think there's a lot on a fight coming up. I think to answer the question of what we do now has a lot to do with Nate Diaz versus Leon. Because I believe the winner of that fight is going to go on to fight Usman. Now, this, of course, is after Colby Covington. Okay, I feel that was announced tonight. Usman didn't say no to it. Colby said yes to it, and Dana said, I like it. I feel that fight was announced. I also feel the winner of Leon versus Nate is going to be next for whoever comes out of that contest. But more importantly, and here's why I bring it up for you, I believe the loser of that is what's next for Masvidal. I don't believe that Masvidal is going to love where the rankings come out on Tuesday morning and go, well, by golly, give me the guy in front of me and let me climb my way back up. I just don't think so. I'm putting myself in his shoes. Fight for a couple of world championships. You fought 50 men already. Took you this long to get this far. No, you probably don't start back over. But Masvidal has some very exciting, very big, and very meaningful things that are still to come. Masvidal is in a very sweet spot in his career. Absolutely. The lifetime goal of being the undisputed champion, fine. Did it happen? Fine. As far as being in a real sweet spot with some real big things of large consequence and interest, oh, he's still in it. Absolutely he is. Absolutely. Nothing has changed there for Masvidal. And he's not going to like this, and he's not going to like how this fight went. But then a week's going to go by. And then 2 weeks are going to go by, and the whole news cycle is going to be changed, and he's going to be getting back into the gym. And I'm only sharing this with you because sometimes there's just not a loser. I mean, Usman has really done a good job of showing us all just how damn good he is. And the only record that he's coming after right now is a fictional, rhetorical record, that of greatest of all time, which is held by George St. Pierre. But St. Pierre did some things that if you're having an argument, you can't get around. St. Pierre beat everybody. Then he went and beat him again. Then he came back and took over another division. I mean, do you see the problem? Not to mention when George left the first time, the boys that he'd already beaten went and they had their time. Right? Remember Johnny Hendricks? Johnny Hendricks came in, he's getting back and forth with Robbie Lawler, but Hendricks runs with that title for a little while. So now not only did George beat all the guys of yesteryear, right, the Matt Hugheses and the BJ Penns, he beat all the guys of his time, Josh Koscheck and the Carlos Condits and the Diaz, but then he beat the next generation. Like, you just can't get around that. Even if Usman was better than George St. Pierre, if we're having this and we're settling this through words and through a debate, you can't beat those arguments. You just can't beat them until a period of time goes by, until Usman leaves the sport himself, and hopefully somebody that he beat runs off with the title, and all of a sudden he can match George. I mean, right, do you see where this is a problem? However, Usman is getting closer. I mean, Usman's already beaten everybody of his time. He's now going through and starting to beat them a second time. So he is gaining on George St. Pierre. And how Usman and why Usman is getting better is a very fascinating topic, because most champions only need to maintain. I can remember being an 11-year-old kid watching Evander Holyfield on SportsCenter, who said, I am the champion of the world. I do not train the same anymore because I don't have to. I don't have to get better. I must maintain. I do maintenance workouts. Well, you know what? That makes a lot of sense to me. That does not sound as anti-competitive to me. And it did it at the time, and it influenced me. I'm now being introduced to something new, which is being the best in the world and then creating a gap. And there's one thing you can put your finger on with Usman that you can very clearly identify, which is he changed teams. He's in a new geographical location. He left Florida. He went to Colorado. He left this coach. He is now with this coach. He left these training partners. He is now working out with these guys, right? Colorado, Coach Whitman, Justin Gaethje specifically. It's made a difference. He's better. Right when you think the guy can't get any better, he looks better. It was a good move for him. Historically, that's not true. If a fighter ever changes camps, they do it for one of two reasons. One, to blame guys for a previous loss. So they blame them and then try to go to a new team. Never works. Or they make the mistake of, if it's not broke, why are you trying to fix it? And in Usman's case, it wasn't broke. He was the champion. What is he trying to fix? Well, I don't know the answer to that. But I can tell you he's better now than he was. That becomes very relevant because the Colby Covington fight is the closest fight Usman's ever had. It's the closest fight that I have ever seen. They went into the 5th round 2 apiece. And the 5th round was back and forth, and it was the dirtiest fight I had ever seen. We got low blow. We got eye pokes coming, some of them on purpose. This was an incredible fight. This fight needs to happen again. But if you are to look at this and go, well, Kamaru beat him the first time. Oh, and by the way, Kamaru's better now than he was. Both of those statements are true, but you don't know is Colby did the same thing. Colby is somewhere else now with different coaches now and different training partners. Colby's turn to prove that he has gotten even better, but the story's the same. The story's the same. This is the fight. This is the fight that has to happen. It's a rightful fight to happen. And according to Dana White tonight at the press conference, it's the fight that's going to happen.